Reading book on pausing. Written by me, Eric Wadell. First draft, August 2025. Chapter 9. Confused situation. Personal story. Learning how to play the piano, I would realize, is a lifelong thing. When I was 10 years old, I took lessons from a patient yet firm man who was a skilled classical pianist. He would try to teach me sheet music, but I found them distracting. I would oftentimes pretend to read from the sheet to try and fool him, but in reality just memorize the music by heart. He was not fooled though, but humored me because he felt that I had a genuine wish to play the piano in my own way. After a year of practice together, our highlight in front of an audience was when we played Boogie Woogie, 4 hands on the same keyboard. Six years later, when I was 16, I tried learning the piano in a new way, and this time on my own. I would just sit down by the keys, put my hands on them, and feel my way through the music. Most of the notes that I played sounded terribly and plain ugly. But then every once in a while I stumbled upon some combination that sounded perfectly fresh and deep. Could be a pulse here or a melody there. Could be going up here or going down there. Could be both hands working together here or contradicting each other there. Things like that. I felt like I was finding my way into a vast and hidden world. Into a world that was truly my own. I felt like I was finding a way of playing the piano that no one had ever played it before. I took great pride in that, and I still do. Learning how to play something like the piano is a fitting metaphor for many things in life. Finding our way in a new city, or walking through a forest, being new at a job or school, or getting to know a person. These are some examples of us navigating through the complexities to life, feeling confused much of the time. Many things that we try will sound terrible or plain ugly. But every once in a while, as we slowly build up a personal sense of structure for our confusion, we will find a sort of music to life that truly feels like our own. It is a lifelong thing. The situation. Confused is when we feel disoriented, scrambled, or like we are missing something. This is a difficult and uncomfortable situation to be in. Usually, we will try hard to find some effective solution to our uncomfort. We will rush, we will think, we will search intensely until our difficulty is finally alleviated. However, sometimes such an intense chase after a solution makes the situation even worse than it originally was. Sometimes, in our relentless push forward, we ruin things for ourselves. This is our confused situation, and it is awkward. To pause in our confused situation is in part about losing, but losing skillfully. Losing skillfully is as important or even more important than winning skillfully. When the only thing we know is that there is something that we do not know, we will inevitably make mistakes, sometimes lesser ones and sometimes bigger ones. To pause when confused is in part about accepting defeat and deciding that we will come back and work on whatever we may have lost in our state of confusion. To pause when confused is in part about coming back, even when we were the ones at fault. With practice, pausing in our confused situation becomes like an elegant state of mind. It helps us be more realistic about that sometimes we are not the ones supposed to be in the know. But this is difficult practice. We cannot pretend like it is not. Most of the time we still do not want to acknowledge that our sense is one of confusion. And instead we will tell both ourselves and others that we do know what we in fact do not know. To pause when confused is to feel small in a skillful way when we actually are small. That way we can also feel big when we actually are big. Confused goal structure. Okay, so now we are sitting down with our confusion. We have paused and we feel more or less terrible about it. What can we possibly do with something that we do not know and cannot grasp nor see? We create a structure for it, even though we do not know what it is that we are creating the structure for. We create a structure for the invisible, for the currently unknown, but possibly tomorrow known. This is our confused goal structure. We do not throw our confusion away. Many fine things, some of the finest things even, come out of a personal sense of confusion. Confusion is raw material, the stuff which is just not yet organized enough for our own limited understanding. By creating a structure for our confusion, we keep the door open to that there might be useful things in it. The confusion in itself is not the problem. The lack of structure for it is the problem. So, we split our confusion up into more manageable pieces. And we look at where our confusion comes from. We look at sources and we look at the infrastructure in our society. We look at the things that make us confused. We see how they are built. We see where they come from and how they came to be. By looking at the structure of confusing things, we also gain a structure for our own confusion. By looking at the confusing parts, we also gain a sense of the confusing whole. The three specific skills for our confused situation: routines, internet, and letters, each help us build such a structure for confusion. Routines. The first part of the structure that we are building for our confusion is in splitting it up into regular and more manageable pieces. We do this by creating a collection of routines for ourselves. Here, the important thing is to be true to our personal preferences. We only create routines that we ourselves believe in and that we feel good about. This is our specific skill, routines. We create routines with regular intervals between each occasion. This becomes like a scaffolding for our confusion, or like a square pattern, making it easier for us to pinpoint more precisely the locations of things. This can be made simple and is actually best kept simple. We could create basic routines for when we work and when we rest. We could create basic routines for when we eat or take coffee breaks. Routines for working out or for writing down our thoughts on paper. The point is that when we create routines that we want to keep, our sense of confusion will gain natural breathing space. Every time we come back to doing a familiar routine, our confusion will appear more clearly to us, because the routine in itself is predictably boring. So, from the perspective of confusion, it matters less what kind of routines we are creating, and it matters more that we like the routines and keep them regular. When confusion may exist within the structure of regular routines, then what it has to say to us will appear more readily. It is similar to if we have a lot on our hearts, then it can clog up and we choke up before we can get it off our chests. But if we instead regularly tell it, little by little, we have an easier time expressing it. Our confusion is in that same way. We pause and create an enjoyable routine for it. Internet. The second part of the structure that we are building for our confusion is that we learn about the infrastructure of the society in which we live. We can call this our specific skill, internet. The internet is a useful concept to think about when it comes to our confusion, because it is a relatively new set of infrastructure and it is also complicated in its design. Any piece of infrastructure that is new to us or is complicated in its design will be confusing to us, at least until we have studied it more closely. So, specific skill internet is not exclusively about us learning about how the internet specifically is designed. It is about all kinds of infrastructure which are new and complicated. The internet here is only the symbol for anything new and complicated that we live within. Anytime we come across or act within some new infrastructure, we pause and check in on if we feel confused or not. If we do, then there is opportunity for us to study how it is designed. We study what it means to be a person living inside the new infrastructure. We study how it feels to be uniquely us there. And we study the dynamics between us and other people while we are acting within it. Some things might be made easier by the infrastructure, and some other things might be made more difficult. We might gain some new things, and we might lose some other things. We pause and allow our hearts to catch up with our thoughts. Okay, we now have learned how this new piece of infrastructure is designed. But how do we actually feel about it? It can take quite some time for us to really know how we feel about it. Often the new infrastructure just feels plain new for the longest time. Some kinds of infrastructure we never grow used to. Perhaps they are not built for our benefit at all, but for someone else's. Letters. The third part of the structure that we are building for our confusion is in making more clear who is saying what and carrying what intention. You carry many different intentions as you live your life, and I carry many as well. You are saying many different things, and so am I. But we get confused when we mix up your intentions with mine, and also when we mix up what you are saying with what I am saying. We do this for a number of reasons, but mainly we do it to save face. We do it to save our own face, and we do it to save the faces of others. It seems that it is natural for people to mix up each other's intentions and statements in order to keep the social cohesion intact. So, then what do we do with this? We pause and make use of specific skill, letters. When we are alone, we make more clear to ourselves the different intentions and statements we feel confused about. We write letters only for ourselves to read, no one else, in which we play around with confusing intentions and statements. We write down something someone said through our own voice, addressing the one who said it. We also write down something we ourselves said, but through the voice of the other addressing us. This way, a few things grow more clear. What was said, with what intention it was said, and especially whose face it intended to save from what embarrassment. Confusion is necessary between people. It functions as a social cohesive, and we will know that cohesion when we make use of specific skill, letters. It recognizes that our confusion carries worth and saves faces. Now we will move on to our fifth and final specific situation. Worn out.